All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you to everyone out there, as always, for listening, for watching, however you consume this show. I do appreciate you very much. I also appreciate today's sponsor, Sunny Reds 1841 Abbott Road, just down the street from Highmark Stadium. You're hearing this on a Friday. You want to go out on Saturday, karaoke this Saturday. I'm telling you, that place pops for karaoke. Go check them out. This is our Friday episode. I thought this would be a really good time to kind of mix things up a little bit. Some Bills, some Sabres, even a little bit of Buffalo Bandits. So I'm bringing in my guy, PK from the Buffalo Sports Collective. We'll call you, what's the term? Jack of all trades, master of
Utility guy last time.
my utility guy, PK, man. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. I know you are. I'm kind of stepping into the Pat Moran shoes here. I know you're a 5-show-a-week guy.
Yeah.
This is my 5th show in a row of recording. Sunday
Wow.
night, we do our normal episode. We started a new series where I'm interviewing somebody that covers the team next on the Bandit schedule. So I did that on Monday and Tuesday since they got double the games this weekend. We recorded because they got a Friday game. So we recorded a day early. So I got that one. So you're the 5th one in a row. I don't know how you do it. Like, I'm tired. My voice is cracking all the once in a while. At least with this one, I was telling Phil, at least with this one, I don't have to do any editing afterwards. The first 4 I did.
It's always a lot more fun being a guest on a show than it is doing a show because you show up, everybody, they do all the work, you talk, and then you sign off and you're done. Well, I'll say this, it's a grind, but it's fun. And with my show, I have, having a guest on 2 or 3 days at least during the week kind of helps. Somebody like Joe from Queens on Sunday, he never shuts up. So it's not a lot of prep work needed. Matt Moran is a really good dude from SB Nation. I have him on Wednesdays. So it is a grind, but it's a lot of fun. The issue is sometimes you have to, like we're talking Buffalo, for an example. This is become primarily a Buffalo Bills podcast, and it is, and it always will be. And I'm good with that, but I don't want to be talking Buffalo Bills. I say this all the time. I want to do other things. And the downside of that is that the fan base is so locked in with the Bills that when you do other stuff at times, it suffers the numbers. But then you get to a point where you really don't want to worry about that. And you just want to be, diverse and do what you want to do. And that's why I love having people like you on. And we're going to talk Bills, by the way, today, obviously. But you're not a Bills guy. You're not a Sabres guy. You're not just a Bandits guy. You are a Buffalo sports guy. And I just loved having some episodes where we get a chance to talk about more than just the Buffalo Bills. It's a good time of year too. You know what I mean? Like it's the off season for the Bills, but juicy things are happening. The Sabre season, mercifully, is almost at an end. The Bandits are rolling, stumbling a little bit lately. We'll talk a little bit about that near the end of the episode. Let's start with the Bills because free agency is a couple of weeks old now. You haven't been on in a few weeks, so they've made a lot of moves since you and I have talked on this show last. Anyway, I've given my takes on a lot of these ad nauseum, so I think people are tired of hearing what I had to say about it. Let's start here today. And again, this won't be a particularly long episode. It's Friday. Well, at least most people will be listening to this on Friday. What has been to this point in terms of the Buffalo Bills and what they've done, whether it's their own guys going out and getting guys, a trade, whatever it may be, what has been like your favorite part or parts of this period of time with the Buffalo Bills so far? And kind of layering this a little bit conversely, like what's been your least favorite thing or things with the Bills so far this offseason?
Yeah, this is kind of why I love the off season a bit as a content creator, because you got a lot more freedom of what you want to do. When it's in season, it's kind of like, okay, next step. It's kind of gets into the routine. That's why I kind of like the off season as doing it as a podcaster. But I think my favorite thing, if you exclude the Josh Allen extension, because I think that's everybody's favorite part of the off season, even though it wasn't very shocking that they were going to extend him. I think it's going to be bringing in a guy like Derek Forrest into the safety room, I think
Mhm.
it adds more good competition back there on a cheaper deal. It kind of gives me, to a lesser extent, like as soon as Sean McDermott comes in, he brings in Jordan Poyer and a more expensive Micah Hyde. But I think this gives them more competition with Bishop back there, that you're not going to just rely on a second year guy to kind of take over the reins there. And it'll tie into my other part, but I do like this because for some reason they have not been very good at nailing defensive line picks or free agent picks in that area. But when it comes to safeties, I think they've done a pretty decent job. Yeah, there's hit or misses every once in a while, but for the most part, I think they've done a good job bringing in guys on smaller deals, and they end up being integral pieces of a defense, good or bad. I think they've been pretty good at nailing down some cheaper options in that room, at least.
When it comes to, and by the way, I'm with you on Derek Forrest. In fact, it might have been earlier Tuesday. Maybe I said on Twitter, don't be, I wouldn't be surprised. Don't sleep on the possibility that we get to training camp in the summer. And I know everybody right now, and I understand it's March and he was a second round pick. And I know it's easy to say Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop are your starting safeties for 2024. I don't know that I'm willing to bet too much on. Like, I wouldn't bet the house on that. And also, the Bills brought back DeMar Hamlin. I've made my feelings on that very well known. I'm good with him being on the roster. I do not want to see him starting at safety. However, if it means having an open competition at free safety again, like they did last year, and Derek Forrest being involved in that, I think I'm good with that, because I could see a scenario where if Cole Bishop falters, he's going to show signs at times. He's got traits. He's a traitsy guy. I'm talking about Cole Bishop here, okay? But I still don't know, and I don't know that Sean McDermott trusts him fully, and I could see him making mistakes. And I look at a guy like Derek Force, who admittedly, before he signed with the Bills, I did not know a lot about, but I've watched a lot of tape on him since he signed. I've talked to a couple people who've covered Washington over the last couple years, and I've heard a lot of really, really good things about Derek Forrest. Going back to 2022, he was a very good starter for Washington in 2022. He had like 4 interceptions. He was making plays all over the field, kind of like Micah Hyde-ish with Washington in 2022. And then unfortunately got hurt in 2023. And then it's only playing in 5 games. And then this past year, they got a new coach, new regime. They brought in their own safeties, and he kind of got phased out of the defense. He barely even played. This is a fresh start, a good opportunity for him. And I do think in a world where there could be a competition, because I do not think Cole Bishop is the lock that a lot of people say he is. Taylor Rapp is. Cole Bishop, not so sure. And also, one of those two guys, the way they play, Taylor Rapp is injury prone. The way he plays football, he is prone to getting injured. Cole Bishop got hurt last summer as a rookie. It's good to have that third safety in there. I think Derek Forrest will be higher when it's all said and done. Maybe not today, but I think he'll be, I think he'll end up higher on the depth chart than DeMar Hamlin. So I'm with you there. I think it was a really good signing. What did you think of? Let's talk about the big one, obviously. Joey Bosa. It's funny, you do a show, not primarily Bills, but you talk Bills as well. And you could do a show, we just talk about doing, 5 days a week. I could have did a show 7 days a week, probably for 3 straight months, previewing free agency. And I'm not sure that the name Joey Bosa would have came up on my list of guys that I think the Bills could target. I just didn't see that in the cards. It didn't feel like a fit. It didn't seem to me like Joey Bosa would want to be here. It didn't seem to me like that's the kind of guy that the Bills would want to take a chance on, especially after dealing with Von Miller trying to get back from a major injury. I mean, these are different types of players and injuries, but still, it's a risk. It is a gamble. High risk, high reward in every sense of the word. This signing truly is. What were your thoughts? What do you think right now on the Bills going out and signing Joe Bosa? 1 year, what, 12.6 million, 12 guaranteed, something like that.
Yeah, I think that one broke more towards the later half of the day, right? That was like a
Yeah.
late news drop.
Yeah. That was a
My
9:22 p.m. on Tuesday news drop. I know
that
that
checks, yeah.
because I was actually out when it happened and looked. I said, here we go again. It's going to be a merger pod time. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, we got a group chat with all the friends, and as soon as free agency hit, my brother was like, "Yeah, I really want Bosa." Like, I don't know why. I didn't really go in depth, but I'm like, that's never going to happen. That why would a guy like Joey Bosa? Why would the Bills be interested in bringing him in? Why would he want to come to Buffalo? But I like the idea of bringing him in. It is a risk, but I think the risk is mitigated because it is just a 1-year deal. It's not like you're locking him up to a Von Miller type of deal, which, yes, before Von Miller got hurt, he was legit a big reason. He was the player that you signed him to be. And then he got hurt and everything kind of tailed off from there. But it being a 1-year deal on this line, I'm cautiously optimistic that it could work for 1 year. And it's kind of given me a little bit of like Leonard Floyd type of vibes here, where he's got a bigger name. Obviously, Joey Bosa's got a bigger name, but I think if he comes in and is less of an every down type of player and they use him like, I don't know, 40 to 50% of snaps, keeping him as healthy as they can be for the stretch run. If he's healthy in December and January, I do like this type of signing. It will be interesting to see if he is able to stay on the field, though, because that's been his biggest knock playing in the NFL right now. Is just as of late, he's not been able to really stay on the field. But as a 1-year deal, I like the type of gamble, and he brings name value to a defense that really doesn't have a ton of name value out there on the like open market and across the NFL landscape.
The injuries are concerning. I mean, let's flip over to the Sabres real quick, and you get a guy like, and he's much younger, different situation, but like Josh Norris, very talented player, very talented player. But when you're injury prone for a reason. And sure enough, he's played 3 games with the Sabres and he's on the shelf. I'm not saying that's going to happen in Joe Bosa. Obviously, I hope it doesn't. But that's obviously concern. The two things I think, I didn't realize it at the time, but what I really like about the signing, more so now as I've had a lot more time to like ingest, the signing and think on things. The two things that I really like most is and you kind of just hit on the first one here. Actually, you hit on both of them. Number one, being a 1-year deal, Joe Bosa, like during his presser in Buffalo, sounded like a guy who doesn't have a shitload of time left in his career. Like he knows his career. He's 29 years old, but I think he knows he's not the guy who's going to be playing football at 36, 37 years old. He's not going to be Calais Campbell. Let's just put it that way, okay? He knows he's on the back nine of his career. I think the motivation to win is very, very much going to be there for him. He knows that this very well may be his best chance to win a Super Bowl. And I'll tell you, these guys, more so than not, they do care about that. I mean, it could sound cheesy and cliche and corny, but winning a championship is very important to these guys. They're rich beyond words, most of them, especially when you get to somebody like him. They've been playing this game their whole life. They want to win a Super Bowl. It does mean a lot to a lot of them. So I think he's going to be highly motivated for that, and also going to be highly motivated to show that, hey, I'm not washed up, and then he goes back into the market, maybe gets a nice 2 or 3 year deal to really wind down his career after this. So I think the motivational factor is going to be there for Bosa, which will play a role. And I also very much like the fact, although I typically don't love the Sean McDermott rotation, like I think Ed Oliver and Greg Rizzo are too damn good to be playing 55% of the snaps. But at times the rotation makes sense. And this is certainly one of them. You don't have a Joey Bosa coming to Buffalo, and you don't have to worry about him getting overworked and out on the field too much and burned out early in the season. If there's any coach in the NFL who's not going to do that, it's going to be Sean McDermott, right? So you don't have to worry about that shit, PK.
But yeah, you're talking about the least.
Sure. Yes.
To translate over to that, I got 2, and we've kind of already hinted and kind of talked about them for a split second there. Mm-hmm. First one is DeMar Hamlin, and it's no shot at him. I think he is a very good depth player. But to me, as long as he's on this team, there's that chance that he earns that starting job because Sean McDermott loves him. Again, I like him for the role player that he should be, but the Bills treat him differently than a team, say Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or any other team in the NFL would have. So that's to me, when I saw he signed for a 1-year deal, I'm like, like it's less money, that's fine and all that, but it's just him being on the team is a bit concerning to me. The second one, and maybe I don't know how everybody's feeling about this one. I might be out on an island by myself. It's Gregory Rousseau's extension, and it has nothing to do with the percentage of the cap that the money is being committed to him. It's the fact that I think we have seen the type of player he is. And to me, I think the money would have been better spent elsewhere. Again, it's not a ton of money committed to him when you're looking at the grand scheme of things and the cap's going up. I just personally think that he's taking up a roster spot and money on a position that I think he's the player that we think he's going to be. I just don't see a ton more potential out there for him for what he's played 4 years now, going to be in his 4th year. It's just, when you've played that much, and you've reached this point, I just don't see if there's much more higher ceiling than we've already seen from him. And to me, that is, I kind of expected it. I was just hoping that maybe I would be wrong, and they would just kind of let him walk and go into free agency and earn a buttload of money there. Some other team would have committed to him.
I don't think that's unreasonable whatsoever, PK, at all. You can look at it this way. He is an elite second defensive end on a great football team. Is he an elite, premier, top defensive end? I don't think he is, and I'm not sure either that he ever will be. He's solid. He's really good. At times, he's great. The money is not unreasonable, but you could also look at it this way. Would you rather spend $20 million on a guy who's a good run defender and is going to get you 7 to 9 sacks, which is what he seems to do every year, or spend $28 million, another $8 million to go get you a guy, whether it's via trade, the open market, whatever it may be, and go get you a guy who's going to get you 12 to 14 sacks and get a guy down in the fourth quarter of a big game. So I don't think that's unreasonable at all. Signing him at $20 million per year for multiple years is going to result in, the only way you're going to have a premier edge next to him is if you're going year by year or 1 year deals like they're doing now, or you draft and you hit on a draft, and then you find yourself in a good situation. I don't think that's unreasonable to say that he's a really good, solid defensive end, but $20 million a year for 4 years, even with the cap going up, that still feels like an overpay. I think that's reasonable. In terms of DeMar, I'm also with you there too. I am worried about him working his way into the starting lineup. I just have zero interest in seeing that. And look, I like DeMar. I think he's a genuine person. He had his press conference and he talked about how Buffalo just felt like home. It's the only thing he knows as a professional, that the organization, the fans, and none of that's a lie. I think he's being very truthful. But your boy went and got an agent, a new agent, went to the market, and he's a Buffalo Bill because there was nothing really out. There was no real interest in DeMar Hamlin anywhere around the league. And I feel like that's kind of evidenced by the fact that he re-signed for 1 year and $2 million. $2 million for a guy who started all season long at safety, who's still young and a big-time name too. That tells you that the market was not there. Philly, Pittsburgh, whoever it may have been. You go get $3.5, maybe $4 million and compete for a spot somewhere, I think he leaves. The fact that he signed for 1 year and $2 million tells me there was no real market out there for DeMar. In terms of like overall, I think what I've liked most, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I like the fact that Brandon Beane is not set back with free agency. Like, they've been incredibly active, especially on the defense. I mean, they got 3 new guys right now in the defensive line rotation. 3 guys who are going to play a lot, and that's before the draft. I'm sure they're going to add to that in the draft, especially now, given the fact that 2 of the 3 are suspended for the first 6 games of the season, which is just still bonkers to me. It's been more than a week now since we've learned that, or a week or so, and shit's just nuts to me. But I like the fact that they've added to this defense. I think they saw in that AFC Championship game, we're not beating the Kansas City Chiefs or any contender with this defense, in a championship kind of game in the playoffs. So they went out, they added good talent on paper. I do like Michael Hoyt. I think he's an upgrade over AJ Epinesa. I don't think he's a star, but I think he's a solid upgrade. I wasn't very high on Larry Ogunjobi to begin with, and now him missing 6 games. That was a mistake by Brandon Beane, and he just kind of had to eat it. But anyway, I like the activity. What I don't like about free agency in this whole period is I'm not sure if I like it. Like, I like the fact that they're active, But when I look at their ads and their losses or what, this team looks like right now, I don't know how I feel about it. I think there's question marks all over these signings. Again, like Michael White feels like a decent signing and he's a 3-year guy, but that's the only, I kind of feel like I know what he is. He's the only like semi-shirt thing to me. Larry Ogunjobi's going to miss 6 games. Is he washed up? Joey Bosa, is he going to last the season? How effective is he going to be? Is he going to be so worried about getting hurt that he's only playing at 60, 70% for half the year? Damar Hamlin being in the mix. Is Derek Forrest going to get a legitimate shot, or is he going to be this year's version of Mike Edwards? Who knows? He's not a sure thing, even on the offensive side of the ball. They lose Cooper. They lose Matt Collins. I did not like losing Matt Collins. They signed Josh Palmer. I'm good with Josh Palmer. I kind of talked him up, but he's no sure thing. There's nothing that they've done in free agency that tells me 100% for sure they're going to be better than what was there last year. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel right now about free agency as a whole. It's a roller coaster. I don't know what I'm going to expect next.
Yeah, it seems like they're going around plugging holes in a ship right now where again, it's not like they needed to, it's not like their ship is sinking. I use a bad metaphor there, but it's I think he's filling the holes right now where when the draft comes up, it's not like, okay, I have to fill this role right now, and this guy has to come in and be a starter. That to me, that's what this really feels like. I agree with you that it seems like a lot of these ones are not risk, but unknown type of signings where it's like Josh Palmer. Yeah, all the analytics are there, and it seems like he could take that next step with Josh Allen and his quarterback in this system, but he could also just not pan out and just be another guy on the outside. It could be Joey Bosa comes in, big name, flashy name, but can he stay healthy and be on the field? I agree with you. It just seems like there hasn't been that big splash, which is almost why I'm thinking like, okay, what is to come? Like, what does Brandon Beane have up his sleeve? Because he's always planning something. Like, there's always something that we don't really expect. I don't think anybody was really expecting the Von Miller trade. I know a lot of people were calling for them to go get a Stephon Diggs, but I don't think anybody was actually expecting him to pull it off and go get a Stephon Diggs. So I think, to me, at least, it's giving off vibes like there is a next play that's going to be a bigger move here, whether it is in the trade market or, maybe they just go and call like a bigger name like a Keenan Allen or somebody of the bigger wide receivers that are still on the market right now. Again, I don't think that's the big play, but I do think that there is something up Brandon Beane's sleeve that he has not let slip yet, because he's one of those ones that is, call him Big Baller Bean for a reason. I don't think these, as big of a name as Joey Bosa is, I just don't think that there's that big of a move yet made by the Buffalo Bills organization.
I think if they have a big move in them that we don't see coming in, it's going to be via trade, because there's no veteran free agents out there that are needle movers at this point. I feel like it would be potentially defensive tackle, like a clear-cut upgrade over DaQuan Jones. We'll see how that plays out. Before we take a break, too, I'll say this about the Bills defense, what they've done. I think they're counting on Joe Bosa to be that upgrade, that fourth quarter.
Yep.
Or Von Miller, for whatever reason, and they get the reps, just wasn't. The other guys, you can look at it this way. Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt are like upgrades over Jordan Phillips and DeJuan Smoot from last year. So you were looking at the rotation, you kind of upgraded the rotation. But it wasn't so much the rotation as the fact that I need me a star player to go make a star caliber play in the fourth quarter of a championship game. And I think that's where Joey Bosa, that's where you're counting on him to kind of be that guy. Let's take a quick break. Come back. I want to ask you about Matt Milano, because he redid his contract, so things have changed with him. Talk about the offense for just a few minutes. And then, like I said, we'll get into a little bit of Sabres talk and some Bandit stuff as well. All right, I'm back here with PK from the Buffalo Sports Collective. Bills, Sabres, Bandits. And by the way, on the video side, so we record this on StreamYard. I don't want to get all the other, industry stuff. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday because my recording got screwed up. I got all these pro scenes, and I'm scared to flip between them right now. So I'm just keeping up this screen for the rest of the show. I might pull you up individually for a moment or two, but I got other stuff and I'm just afraid that it's going to freeze on the video side. So I ain't taking no chances. All right, Matt Milano. So now we all know he took a pay cut, roughly around, I think it was like 3 million or so. And the payoff for him is now he will become a free agent after this season. Any quick thoughts on that? Matt Milano taking a pay cut, which, by the way, I've heard was done actually weeks ago. For whatever reason, though, it wasn't announced. This actually move was done to help the Bills get under the cap before the league year had even started. So it was reported as new, but it's not actually new news with the Bills. But anyway, your thoughts. Milano takes a pay cut, and now he could be a free agent after this year.
Yeah, I like the move. It's kind of it gives off a bit of the Von Miller last year. It was like, hey, can you take a pay cut here to help out the team and earn it back in incentives? And I think it's more you got 1 year to kind of show that you can get back to what you as close to what you were before the injury, because I don't think he's ever going to reach back to what he was pre-injury. One, because he's a year, 2 years older than all the injuries that have happened so far, and the injuries take a toll on you. So I think if he shines and can still prove that he can be the starting linebacker next to a Terrell Bernard on this offense, you can bring him right back. He can earn more money next year. But I do think it gives them an easier out than it was if he had those 2 years on his contract still. So I think this isn't a huge needle mover, but I think it is them somewhat planning for the future if Matt Milano is not the same Matt Milano that we have seen in prior years. So I like the move for him, because if he does turn out to be great, I'm a big Matt Milano guy. He can go out and earn more money in a longer term contract with more guarantees. But if he's not, that does help the team that he can get out. And maybe it's Dorian Williams. Maybe it's somebody that's not even on the team right now that can start next to Terrell Bernard. So I like the move for both the player and the team for different reasons.
Do you think that it's certainly possible that getting cut was on the table? Like right now, it's like, hey, Matt Milano agrees to a $3 million pay cut and now it could be a free agent. That doesn't automatically mean both sides said, hey, this is a mutually great thing for both of us. We got to shake on this and we must agree. It very easily could have been, yo, Matt, you got to take a pay cut this year and we'll do this, or we're going to cut you. And good luck, mate. You're probably not going to get a lot on the open market. Do you think that certainly would have been on the table? Like, hey, Matt, you got to do this if you want to be a Buffalo Bill for 2025.
Yeah, considering it's a pay cut, I don't think he would have went to the office and said, hey, I'll take less money. I think it was the organization coming to him like, hey, this is the situation. You can sign it, or you can, thanks for all your work. We'll see you later. Yeah.
I'll tell you this, man. Everybody's assuming, and I understand why. It's a foregone conclusion that this is Matt Milano's last year as a Buffalo Bill. The logic certainly lines up, and it certainly makes sense, but I'm not going to go quite there yet. For starters, I like the way. Now, look, he's got to stay healthy for a full year, and that ain't no given with Matt Milano at this point of his career. But let's not forget, he was ascending last year, especially in the playoffs. I thought he played pretty damn well. Yep. I thought he was great against Baltimore. I thought he was pretty good against Kansas City, all things considered. So I don't consider it a foregone conclusion that he's gone. There's a couple old linebackers, older, I should say, around the league that are still very good. Devontae David, Tampa Bay, just got like a $10 million. He extended. He's back with Tampa. Bobby Wagner is like 4 years older than Matt Milano, and I thought he was a beast last year with Washington. So let's not, just automatically assume that Matt Milano's done. 31 years old is not young, and 32 next year will be even less young. But that don't mean that he's done, that he's finished. So it's not a foregone conclusion, and I was encouraged by the way he played in the playoffs. Tied to that, whether it's his last year or not, Dorian Williams better be ready to play football, because between Matt and Terrell Bernard, who gets nicked up a lot, being undersized, the way he plays football, a recklessness to his game, which I love, but it does make him a little more prone to getting banged up. I want to see Dorian Williams be the primary backup in both spots this year. Like, if Milano goes out, Williams comes in. Well, I want the same thing if Bernard goes out, because I have no interest in seeing Balen Spector or anybody like Balen Spector on the field again when Dorian Williams is standing on the sidelines, because it's your Mike linebacker and not your weak side, especially when he came out of college playing plenty of Mike too. You agree with that? Like, Dorian Williams, one of the keys for me for this year, now that we know Milano's back, is Dorian Williams needs to be the backup. Let him get acclimated at both spots, right?
I I would not like to see Bale Inspector on the Buffalo Bills
I don't
this
think you're gonna have
season
to
in
worry
to
about
begin
it.
with. Yeah, I think Dorian Williams, I think there's another gear. I liked his progression from year 1 to year 2. I think it was a massive step, and I don't think anybody can really critique that. But I would like to see the next step from year 2 to year 3 because I want to see more consistency. I want to see better play on the field. I did like his play last year, and while I don't think that he is a starting linebacker in the NFL at this very moment, I think he can get there. But I agree with you. I would like him to be the backup to both those positions because Matt
Well,
Milano has an injury history. Terrell Bernard has an injury history. And if he is a guy that can come in for a handful of starts and prove that he can be the starting linebacker, I do like that move because I do think that if Matt Milano does not return in 2 years, he returns next year, he doesn't return the following year, I do think that Dorian Williams will likely get the first crack at that job. And you need to be able to prove it because history will repeat itself. At some point, Bernard or Milano or both are going to get hurt next season. And Williams will have to step up, and he needs to prove that he can play both those positions because not only will that benefit him in the long run when it comes time to get paid, but also it's very valuable to have that type of linebacker that, hey, if Matt Milano is healthy in this game, you can roll out Williams if Bernard is hurt that game and then vice versa. So I do agree. And I do think that there is a next level to his game. I'm just excited to see if it can come out in year 3.
100%. And look, another thing too, last year, so Dorian Williams started last year when Milano was gone. The
Yep.
Bills barely ever got into a 4-3. And part of that reason is because Bale Inspector was that third linebacker. Dorian Williams right now will have value, even if he's not a starter, because A, hopefully he can back up both positions instead of just one like we just talked about. But also, when the Bills have 4-3 looks, Dorian Williams will be that third linebacker. That might make Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbage more willing to go to 4-3 looks because Dorian Williams is a much better third linebacker. To your point about Bale Inspector, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that too much. It's not even his skill set. Like, he's got some athleticism to him. He's capable of doing some good things on the field. But after this amount of time and this many injuries, it comes down to trust.
Yep.
And if you can't trust the guy to be able to stay on the field for more than 2 or 3 weeks without going on IR, what value does he have to you on your roster? So I think whether Dorian Williams ends up being a backup to the Mike or not, I still think whether it's the draft or a low-key free agent out there, maybe a veteran, they're going to look to replace Bale Inspector. I really don't think he's going to be much in the mix at all. Before we flip it to the Sabres too, let's talk about the offense for a second. It's so weird to talk about the Bills. You know what's funny? I think what we mentioned is contract, but we're at the point in the season where we're so locked in on what they're doing and the defense. I don't even think I mentioned Josh Allen for more than 2 seconds on this podcast, which is really weird when you're talking Buffalo Bills or even the offense. But because it's all about getting the defense better. Offensively, how do you feel about this team right now? So Josh Palmer is in. As we record this anyway, Amari, I'll get it right. Amari Cooper is still free agent. Matt Collins signed a 2-year deal with the Patriots. Still a little surprising to me. But besides that, they're and Laviska Shenault, who I think is this year's like KJ Hamler. He just fist bump from PK there. He's this year's KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, MVS, a former high pick who's a name. You never know. Maybe catch lightning in a bottle. But anyway, he's on the roster. Hollins, Cooper are out. Offensive line the same. Tight end's the same. Quarterback obviously the same. Ty Johnson resigns. Running back is the same. They're coming really close to running it back other than wide receiver change. How do you feel about the offense right now, what they've done and where this offense stands right now?
As much as I would like them to do more in the wide receiver room, it's hard to when you take off your band or your Bills fandom hat and you kind of look from an outsider's perspective.
Mhm.
For as good as this offense was last year, why would you change up much of it? Like your whole offensive line's coming back, your running back room's coming back. You still got Josh Allen, Shakir re-signed. If Kincaid can stay healthy, because it sounds more and more like the knee issue was a major issue, and that raises the flag. If he was that hurt, why was he on the field if he was hurt and everything? Why wouldn't you just run out Dawson Knox more? But that's a different story. I feel like they're going to draft a wide receiver in a day 1 or day 2 pick. They have to. Like they can't just rely on Keon Coleman to take that next step. But as long as this offensive line is there and the running game can keep going, I see no reason to kind of shake the boat much. It will be interesting to see how big of a role that Josh Palmer takes over. Is he more going to get the touches that Matt Collins got, or can he be that true, not threat on the outside, but a contributing factor on the outside that they've been missing for, all last year when Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis walked out the door. So I am not super surprised they haven't done a ton there. I'm just more surprised they've really only done like one addition that I think will actually have meaningful snaps on that side of the ball. Because as much as I fist pump for Chenault, that was back in his Jaguar days where I was excited about that. And then it's like, and I'm reliving like 5-6 years ago. He's like Claypool. He's going to have all that name value. Everybody's going to get super excited. And then, he's going to be a practice squad player back in the street.
Sure. Look, he was also much like Chase Claypool. Chenault was good his first 2 years, and then he just kind of went into the tank. I don't agree with you about one thing you said, though. Not that I don't want you to be right. I just don't think you're going to be right. First of all, I think there's almost no chance they're taking a receiver on day 1. And I would even be surprised if they took one on day 2 as well. I really think they're going to, especially with the 2 suspensions. I really would be surprised if all 3 of those first 3 picks are not on the defensive side of the ball. I'll say this to anybody out there and I think you had a very level-headed, reasonable reaction to what, the offense has been this offseason. Well, people are like, well, it's not, last year wasn't sustainable. Well, I would pose this question. Why not? Is the offensive line different? Is the offensive line are they regressed from last year? Do they not have their top 2 tight ends back? Do they not have all 3 of the running backs, including what very well may be, everyone wants to talk about James Cook potentially holding out and this and that. I'll flip it around. How about a guy who's going to be playing for a monster contract, whether it's with the Bills or somebody else? You don't think he's going to want to show out? You don't think 31 other teams are going to pay attention to how he handles this? So what about this team is not going to be sustainable? They still got Khalil Shakir. All right. But the biggest thing is, by the way, they happen to have, the NFL MVP freaking P at quarterback as well. I see nothing to tell me that this offense won't be sustainable. I do think Josh Palmer is an upgrade. Let's just say over, because they lost 2 guys, say over Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's certainly a bigger name. Amari Cooper's far more accomplished in his career, but I don't know that his skill set was as conducive to what the Bills need as much as Josh Palmer's potentially. We'll have to see if it plays out. Potentially only sounds good on paper if he's going to be able to fill that role. To me, 100%, I think, and there's a reason why I said I don't think they're going to draft a wide receiver early. This is the reason, PK. I think Brandon Beane is really counting on and banking on Keon Coleman to take a significant step in year 2. Counting on him to be as good or even better than he was last year as a rookie before he got injured. We all know that the injury kind of wiped him out in the back half of the year. But they're counting on Keon Coleman. And if he's what they hope he's going to be, there you go. If he's not, I think wide receiver becomes a very, very big priority next year. I think between Keon Coleman and also you mentioned Dalton Kincaid being healthy, those are the 2 guys. Like, what's going to make the offense as good or better this year than it was last year isn't going to be the Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen, who actually just signed with the Chargers, I believe, today or yesterday. But somebody like him, Stephon Diggs, still out there. These name guys that are still out there. It's not none of that. It's not even going to be a rookie. It's going to be Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid taking their games to the next level, stepping their games up. That's what's going to make this offense a lot better. You agree with that? Like, ultimately, that's going to be the biggest part to, or the biggest key to the Bills' offensive success.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's why I do believe that this team can have sustained success on that side of the ball moving forward. It's just they're banking on Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid to take that next step. And they were banking on Dalton Kincaid last year to take that next step. And you can blame all the knee injury you want, but he didn't get hurt right in the beginning of the season. And, he was not on track to do flashy stuff that made me look like an idiot for all my bold predictions. Maybe I'm a little salty for that, but it's just, if those two players don't pan out, there's not really a plan B to take your game to the next level. That's the biggest issue for me. Is I still think they're going to be a top 5 offense. I think behind that offensive line, keeping Josh upright, and that run game that was electric last year, I have no doubt that this offense can be very, very good and can get them to the Super Bowl. It's just, I don't know if they have that next tier unless Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid take that next step, because I don't know if there is that backup plan. I do like Josh Palmer, but I just don't think that he can be that difference maker to take them over the top.
One last thing too about the Bills, and specifically that, me telling you that I think that's their plan, that they are depending on Keon Coleman, does not mean that I agree. It does not mean that I personally agree with that. I want to put it out there too. I am still somewhat skeptical about Keon Coleman if the goal is for him to be a guy who's going to get you a DK Metcalf type production. Right. You know what I mean? I think that's a very big ask. I don't know that he has that in him. We'll see. Guys got to step it up again. Dalton Kincaid was way, way, way better as a rookie. If he can get back to that production in year 3, that certainly would help as well. All right, let's turn our attention here, unfortunately, to the Buffalo Sabres. God, I'm sick of getting like in this instant gloomy mood anytime I talk Buffalo Sabres.
Same way.
But we're not alone. Everybody feels this way. Fans, media, outlets, you name it. I saw over the last few days, the Athletic had this NHL owners poll, and it was based on fan vote and media, having their input as well. And Terry Pegula, dead last in the NHL, 32 owners. I don't know why I'm talking like this is surprising, but he was dead last in the NHL owners rankings. Let me read off a couple things from this website. Then I want to get some input from you on this. All right. Again, they listed all 32 and they ranked them, and they had some thoughts on every owner in the league. And 32 is Terry Pegula. Okay. Fan base evaluation. This is from the fan base. Okay. Willingness to spend, dead last. Organizational stability, dead last. Treatment of the fan base, dead last. Franchise vision, dead last. Then they write, it's a sad state of affairs in Buffalo right now. This season is the franchise 14th consecutive out of playoffs, the NHL's longest drought in history, and one that doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon. Then they talk about them being voted dead last. Things are about as bad as they can get in Buffalo. From a fan perspective, I'll just skip to the last sentence. Hockey heaven, he said. Instead, Terry Pegula's ownership has put Buffalo in hockey hell. And then one last thing, they have a confidence percentage level compared to 1 year ago. People are higher, have more confidence now than a year ago in Terry Pegula, 4%. Who are those 4%, by the way? I'd love to know who those freaking homers are, those 4%ers out there. 35% said the same confidence level, and 61% said lower. So 96% of Sabres fans have no more or less confidence in Terry Pegula, and 4% higher. I don't know, buddy. What do you think when you just read and hear shit like that? It's embarrassing, isn't it?
You can't be embarrassed when you're dead inside.
That's fair.
It's just their last ditch effort was Lindy Ruff, and it fell flat. And national media now is latching onto this. It's just it keeps getting worse. It's going to keep getting worse until the product on the ice wins and makes playoffs. Like, even winning is not going to do enough. You have to get off this hump and in the play. To me, honestly, and I know the Bills drought was longer, and it's not much longer, but this is worse. Like, this is hands down so much worse than the Bills drought ever was. It's just, I don't know. Besides making the playoffs and getting in and getting that monkey off your back, I don't think there's anything else that this organization can really do to get it back on track. Like, what's even more disappointing is I like some of the pieces that are on this team, and I like some of the pieces Kevin Adams brought, but as soon as you bring him to the Saberland, it's like something switches, and it's just like it's loser mentality all up and down, and it starts at the very top with Pegula, and it's just hands off. Like I really don't know the inside outs of it. Like how much is he really involved in the hockey department? But it's just like, you know that he doesn't know football, so he keeps his hands off football. You know damn well he doesn't know lacrosse, so he doesn't touch lacrosse. And the two sports that he owns, he has hands off, are successful. So it's just the common denominator has been and will always be Terry Pegula. And I am with you. I don't know who those 4%ers are. I don't know if it's just part of his extended family that's writing in it, or like big corporations that get seats to the games that also got input with this. I don't know. I'm shocked it's 4% that high.
One thing I noticed too about that poll that I read, they were either first or second. Minnesota fan base was the only other one. Either they had more input than the Sabres, or they were the only ones that were even close. But either way, that just shows you that there's a lot of venom with fans. Let me ask you this question, because you brought up the Bills drought. And this is a real-time question, because I don't even know the answer, and maybe I'll think of it after I ask you this. Do you think, you said that this Sabres drought is worse than the Bills drought for you, and I agree with you. Do you think that the Bills were more, during their drought, lovable loser types as opposed to the Buffalo Sabres, who just don't even feel likable? And allow me to explain this real quick. Here's what I'm getting at. When the Bills sucked for all those years, when they were in their drought, I found myself rooting against them, especially in the back half of the season. But I always felt like I was rooting against them because once I knew they were done with the playoffs, I wanted them to improve their draft stock. I was like, at some point, one of these years, you're going to get a guy who's going to significantly impact your franchise for the better. As it turns out, that never really happened. The Bills turned shit around because they went and got the right coach, because they went out in 2017 and they got guys like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, and they made the playoffs. And then they go get Josh Allen the next year. You know, they moved up to get him. But my point was, I don't think I ever rooted against the Bills out of malice. I rooted against them because I wanted to get that right prospect in there. When it comes to the Sabres, I find myself rooting against them because I fucking hate them. Like, I don't care about the draft pick. I don't know who the draft prospects are in hockey, and I don't care who they are. I don't care who they add. I don't care if they get the top pick, the third pick, the eighth pick. I root against them because I don't think they're likable. I've watched this team in the locker room, loss after loss, say the same tired, cliche bullshit. What happened to Tage Thompson in New Jersey? I know they've taken steps since then, but I'm still not over that. I still don't forget that. Too many of these guys, last year they threw their head coach Granato under the bus after he got fired. It's just a lack of accountability, a lack of guts, and this team's just not very, minus a few players. Well, I love Darlene. We'll talk about him in a minute, but they're not likable. So I find myself rooting against them because I don't like them. Do you kind of feel the same way when it comes to these two teams and those droughts?
Yeah, I think the other added part of this is back with the Bills drought. It was only 16 games you kind of had to suffer through.
Sure.
This one, it's 82.
Sure.
I think the also part of that is if you were rooting against them towards the end of the season, it was because you would get an impactful player throughout the entire draft immediately. NHL, you got to, unless you're getting the top 1 or 2 picks, you're waiting 3 or 4 years for these guys to develop. But yeah, you also had the factors of, you had Fitzpatrick in that. Everybody loved Fitzy. You had Fred Jackson. Everybody loved Fred Jackson. Like, you had more personality and guys that you could latch onto and root for. With the Sabres, it's like you don't really have anybody. Like, you feel bad for the Rasmus Dahleens and the Tage Thompson and so on and so forth. But it's because of just how poorly managed they've been for years. Like, they've gone through how many GMs and how many coaches and how many players, and it's just the same thing on repeat. Where Buffalo, they would give you fun, like football was more fun to watch during that drought rather than the hockey is on the ice. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it's mind numbing. I couldn't drink the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs legally. It's just, it's insane. I think I saw a stat the last time that the Sabres won a playoff game. I think I saw this today. Tyler Ennis scored the game winner. And that's how long it's been.
How much does this suck that, sit there and rip on this team and this organization, and they deserve it. But Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson, they don't deserve this. You know what I'm saying? It sucks that they're not celebrating more. Tage Thompson right now has got 34 goals. He's tied for 5th in the league with Pasternak and Ovechkin, 2 stars in this league. And only 5 of his goals have come on the power play. He's second in the NHL in goals scored, even strength. Drasati's the only one in the league who's got more than him. Dahlin, you know what he is, man. 52 points, 8th among defensemen, plus he's missed 8 games. He's exciting. He's one of the best defensive players, defensemen, blue liners in the entire league. That's the part that sucks, is like, these guys should be celebrated a lot more. And it's almost like, oh, I feel so bad for Dahlin. I feel so bad for Tage. And I do. But it suck that they should be celebrated. Like, we celebrate Josh Allen. We celebrate guys like Matt Milano. And of course, because that's winning, I get it. And it kind of sucks that, for all these rats in the locker room, for all these weasels, these soft ass players, and a coach who's just not getting it done this year as well. I mean, let's just put that out there. I feel bad for the Tage Thompsons. Dude's a star getting smacked in the head and nobody does shit about it. And Rasmus Dahlin is frustrated beyond words. All of the rumors and stuff like that, things that are going around. Doesn't it suck that these guys aren't celebrating more? They should be, and they're not. That's what makes me mad.
Yeah, I mean, you can even go back to Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart and Ryan O'Reilly, like all these players that were so good in the league, and they go on to even be better in the league as well. But yeah, you're not celebrated around here because of the winning, and it's just it stinks because of how great they are, that their talent kind of just gets lost in the shuffle because you can go out and score 2 goals and you lost 4-2. So that's what stinks. And was it Tuck that got hit the other day? And who's the first one in it? It was Tage Thompson, or no, it was Norris, I believe. He was, or Bo Byram. I don't know. It's so many times it's happened so far. But Tage Thompson's the first one in there. Like before Dylan Cousins was traded, the last imprint in my brain was Dahlin's getting ganged up by 3 guys and he's just skating behind the net. So it's like, I think what also stinks about them not getting the recognition and the love that they deserve is you can see on the ice that they're giving it their all and they're sticking up for their teammates. And like, it means something to them, that it's just, it stinks that they have that aura on them because of all the crap that's come the 14 years before them. It's just everything, every season that they don't make the playoffs, it's 1 year added on to all the hate that they're going to get when they're not responsible for the majority of it. It's just, it definitely does stink that they're stuck in the pile of garbage. And
sucks.
They're great.
Their greatness is just rotting away in Buffalo. And I genuinely feel bad because they deserve better. Again, if they were, either of those guys were a Washington Capital or Vegas Golden Knight or a Colorado Avalanche, the level of stardom that they would have would be so much more than what it is.
People would want their jerseys. Yeah.
100%, man.
Around the league. Yeah.
How broken is this? Like, the trust right now in your mind with the Sabres by fans. I mean, we talked about the ownership poll. I'm not even sure if firing Kevin Adams would even matter at this point, which, by the way, is almost a mootless point. Mike Harrington is telling me over and over again, it ain't happening. He's telling them Kevin Adams ain't getting fired. And Mike covers the team. He knows people. I believe him. Certainly. Where's the confidence? I don't understand how Kevin Adams can finish his 5th year as GM. You can finish dead last in your conference and it goes on. I get it. You had to trade Cousins. You had to get what you can get. I like Josh Norris, but again, 3 games in, he's on the shelf already. That's just whatever. You can call that bad luck. Samuelson's a disaster. He got a big contract. Cousins is gone now. Jack Quinn, he sucks unless you shoot him the puck. And I don't know, trade him, get something from why he still has some value, as opposed to, say, Olofsson, who you kept holding on to until he just became completely, void of any value. I feel like that's going to end up happening with Quinn ultimately. That 4th line was a big deal this offseason. We're going to rebuild our 4th line, be so much tougher to play against. Well, Malinside's been a disaster. Lafferty's been a disaster. AUK's not even on the team. Didn't he get He's in
Yeah,
Rochester
he
now.
got waived, and then I think he got traded at the deadline too.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, he's not even on the team anymore. Just a complete disaster. Again, they got nothing for Quinn. UPL, a 5-year contract after last year, a good year. Don't look like such a bargain right now this year. It's just, how does this guy get so many lives and just continue on as general manager? Obviously, he's a yes guy for Terry. That's pretty apparent right now. But how could you possibly have any faith in the Sabres if you're a fan, especially if Kevin Adams remains GM, which it certainly seems is going to be the point?
Yeah, you can't. And my one buddy who's similar to me, Sabres were his first love. Growing up, July 1st was the big day. You were watching the prospects in Rochester. And we're both grown-ups now. He's got 3 kids, and he put out a really nice note the other day. I think it was months ago at this point, but it's like, hey, I've got the 3 kids that I want to share my childhood with and have them grow up and be a fan of the team that I fell in love with. And I just can't, because why would they want to be a fan of a team that stinks and loses all the time? It's like, you're losing such a generation of people. And I've said it so many times on our show. I think I've said it multiple times on your one, but they lost so many generations of future fans because of their ineptitude and their losing ways, that he wants to share the love of the Sabres with his kids, and he just can't, because there's nothing to share and there's no good times with it. So it's like, all his kids are like 2 and 3 years old now, maybe even 4, and they're losing all those years of being able to share the Sabres with them. Like the heydays of the 05, 06, 06, 07 teams. Like, that's my childhood right there. I grew up watching that and fell in love with it. And it's been so long since then. And our kids now can't grow up and feel that same love, because there's no hope with it. And it's sad, but it's also like, it gets you angered. It's pathetic. You're embarrassed. It's just so many of those adjectives are just thrown on this team. And it's just, there's no end in sight, because even if you were to switch the GM, what gives you any confidence that the person that's going to hire the GM is going to get the right GM in place? It's just, it's when the national media is just piling on and giving you as ideas of what you can do to fix the franchise, it's out the window. What can you do? There's just no hope right now.
My son is 22 years old and he tries to get into hockey a little bit here and there and watches some of the games and just lose. And I'm like, this dude he's not even old enough to remember what the party
Right.
was, and the playoff pushes and those games and the electric atmosphere. And who knows when the hell he might end up getting married, starting a family, and moving out of Western New York before he gets to experience that with the Sabres. Before we get out of here quickly here with the Bandits, get a little bit of an update from you on the Bandits. Here's my level of Bandits fandom. Okay, I'm just being honest with you and with everybody. I want them to do good. I like them. I'm proud of them. They're the only team that wins shit in this town. I love that. On a Saturday, I can always tell when they're home, because whether I'm having some beers at Imperial Pizza or Sunny Reds or wherever the hell I am, I'm going to see a sea of orange, white, black, whatever home road jerseys Bandits fans got on. They flood the streets. They go to the games. They sell out. They get loud. It's awesome. I find out if they won. I ask a fan afterwards, after the game, you win? Usually it's yeah. I'm like, cool, sweet. Playoffs, I'm going to watch, root for a championship. I'm a bandwagon guy. Talk to me in the playoffs. That's my fandom. Obviously, you are much more plugged into that. You cover the team. You talk about them every week. I did look it up. They're 10-2, 2 games clear of the best record in the league, but they have lost 2 of their last 4, and both of those losses have come at home, San Diego and Calgary, and both those teams, I looked up the standings, kind of like middle of the pack. So before we get out of here, what's the latest on the Bandits? What's going on with them?
Well, shameless plug. We're having a watch party. We're taking over Tap That Tap Room on Saturday. So going to 7:00. Tap That Tap Room. It's in Tonawanda. They show Bandits games on all the screens. The sound's on. We're giving away a ton of merch. We got grand prizes, ticket giveaways. It's going to be great. But to speak to the team, selfish plug, yeah. But I think they're actually 3 games clear of Saskatchewan, who's in second place right now because they got the tiebreaker. And there's only 6 games left on the Bandits schedule. So as long as they don't go 0-6, they're probably getting the numbers from 1 seed. They can actually clinch a playoff spot this week with a win. They got 2 games Friday and Saturday. But they can also get a home playoff win if they win both, and then Georgia and San Diego loses. But to talk about the losses, the first one versus San Diego tied it with like 6 seconds left on the clock, and then they won it in overtime. But that was on a back-to-back, and that Friday game versus Toronto. And those games are always a bloodbath. And I'm using that not even lightly. It is a bloodbath. So they came into the second game kind of beat up and
Sure.
yeah, and San Diego was in a position where they had to win, and San Diego's kind of gone on a stretch of big victories since that one. But the following week, they faced San Diego again, got the revenge versus Calgary. It was, to me, that one was more of a blip. Calgary's got a really good offense. They had a brand new goaltender who won goaltender of the year last year. The defense is a bit shaky, but it's just everything that could go wrong with that game went wrong. They gave up 17 goals. Matt Vince didn't look the same. But again, the following week, they go and win in Calgary versus the team that just beat them 11-6. So they got two new pieces on the back end because the trade deadline just happened and a 4-team deal. They were part of it. They brought in 2 veteran pieces on the back end. I think if they're able to adjust the lineup and get Ian McKay back on the left side forward, I do think that fixes their forward group. And if they can fix the forward group, it's going to funnel all the way down. And I have no doubt that Matt Vince, being still 42 years old and in better shape than 99% of the population of the entire world, is going to lock down the net minders. But yeah, it's a great time to be a Bandits fan because they have a chance to do something. And I don't even know if they're going to have to do what the Chiefs did and try to call Pat Riley. I don't know if they're just too small that he's not even going to notice. But three-peat is in the mix right now. It's still alive and breathing.
That would be awesome. I'll tell you this too, to wrap up, without knowing, again, I don't really know the team. I know a couple of star players, but what I can tell you is just from being around and being in town, the fan base for the Bandits rivals that of the Bills. I'm not even going to compare the Sabres, but like obviously the Bills got a gazillion times bigger fan base, but the people who love the Bandits are as passionate about the Bandits as anybody is about the Bills or anybody else for that matter, and these teams here in Buffalo. It really is cool to see everybody in Bandit scare. You can, even if you don't follow the team, when they're at home because that town lights up with Bandit scare whenever they're playing at home. Sometimes on the road too, as well. It'll be fun to track. Have it on it again soon. PK at PK_BSC. Make sure you check out Buffalo Sports Collective. Him and Phil crush it with their coverage. And one time before we get out of here, for people listening, if you're a Bandits fan, you want to go to that watch along. Where is that again?
It's at Tap That Tap Room, I think 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda. It starts at 7:00. We'll be there around 6, but tons of merch and other stuff, games on all the TVs. And we're it's supposed to be a packed house. So get there a little early.
All right, guys. Thank you, PK. Thank you, everyone out there, for watching and listening. I'll be back again next Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. I'll be live with Joe from Queens. Talk to you guys then.